So today we're testing the Wilson Ultra 100. This is the V4 version. Has a 16-19 pattern, 100 square inch head size, and it's Wilson's most powerful frame, okay? The testers today are all advanced players, so they're gonna see how they can control and harness that power and if it's right for them. Hi guys, I'm being joined by George Houghton, one of our regular ATT testers. Today we're looking at the Wilson Ultra 100. This is the V4 version. So specs wise, it's quite similar to George's current Pure Drive. So 100 square inches, 300 grams, and features that same 16-19 pattern. So what was your first kind of thoughts from the baseline? How did it feel?
Yeah, I guess it was fairly similar to the Pure Drive from the baseline. There was plenty of power. I think probably a bit more spin than I was used to with this racket, and it was definitely shooting off the strings. So yeah, plenty of easy power with this racket for sure.
People have been talking about how easy it is to kind of pick up and play. It's definitely a powerful, forgiving racket that Wilson have created here. So let's talk about spin generation, more touch shots. How did they feel?
Yeah, I think spin generation was absolutely fine. That was very easy. I think around the net was a bit tricky again because I felt like it was just flying off the strings a little bit. Whether a tighter string pattern or a poly string maybe would help with that a little bit for a more advanced player. But yeah, I agree, the sweet spot feels huge and there's plenty of margin for error with this racket.
So it's definitely a kind of forgiving racket here. How did it feel when you're defending? Was that helpful, that free power, when trying to just get out of danger?
Yeah, definitely. When defending, I mean, when I'm not guaranteed to get the ball out the middle of the racket, it was a lot easier to get a good strike on it due to the big sweet spot. So I think that did help a lot. But however, similarly, if I was a bit out of control of the ball, it would then fly a little bit. Right,
okay. So when you were volleying and things, did you find it a little bit too powerful at times, harder to hit touch shots?
Yeah, a little bit. I think it felt good on when I was trying to volley deep. However, if I was taking a drop volley or trying to cut it a little bit more, then I felt like it was a bit trickier to control still.
Okay, and then on the serve, did that free power kind of help on the flat serve down the tee and things like that?
Yeah, I think the serve was probably where it felt best for me. I think lots of easy power, lots of easy spin, both for kick serve and a slice serve. So I think in terms of serving, this racket was great.
Okay, so we've talked about how George enjoyed the free power of the racket, maybe lacked a little bit of finesse in terms of touch and things like that for him. What kind of player would this suit then?
I think general club players this is ideal for, who don't necessarily want to be hitting the ball out the middle of the racket every time and too much power. I think someone who likes easy power, doesn't come to the net too much, more of a baseline based kind of player.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to kind of point out that this is strung with Luxlon Vibe, which is their softest poly. It's also got a multi-filament in the cross, so it's going to have a very soft, forgiving feel. Today we've got quite a lot of advanced play testers, so they would probably be used to stringing with a tighter, full poly bed, which is obviously going to have a stiffer, more controlled feel. So for those of you that are after kind of a powerful racket, this kind of fits your specs. It'd be interesting for you guys to try it out with a full poly setup as well. This, for like your intermediate club level player who enjoyed the soft feeling, the sweet spot feels massive. I mean, has kind of remnants of a Clash in terms of when you pick it up, it's so soft, the feeling's really nice on impact, but maybe for George today, the feeling, it lacked a little bit of control for you.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. A very soft feeling of impact, plenty of easy power, just for me, just not quite enough control.
So what do you think about the cosmetics of the racket then? For me, it's a great looking frame, but what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, definitely. I really like what Wilson are doing at the minute. I really like the matte kind of designs with the colour scheme and the kind of simplistic two-colour tone. I think it looks really cool.
Hi guys, I'm joined by Kenzo, another one of our testers today, testing the Wilson Ultra 100 V4. So Kenzo, talk us through your first impressions when hitting with the racket, picking it up, ground strokes in the back. What was your feelings?
Yeah, so this one I felt was quite nice on the arm. I got a lot of easy power with this. It didn't take much to really generate some pace with this. I normally use a Pure Drive, so specs-wise it's very similar to the Pure Drive. I felt it was a little bit easier on the arm, so maybe for kind of club players it would be a bit nicer to use in terms of ease on your body. Yeah, and I felt when we were hitting, it was a little bit inconsistent in terms of how much power I got. I felt like we were spraying a little bit when I used it, so perhaps we could string it a little bit tighter next time. I don't know if the string's a little bit loose, and maybe I'll have a bit more control over that power.
And so how is spin generation for you? You talked about lots of access to free power. Is it comparable to your current racket in terms of spin production?
Yeah, I felt I was generating quite a lot of spin on this. A little bit, I think it was a little bit more easy to generate spin than my pure drive. Yeah, I feel like I could accelerate a bit more, but yeah, again, comes with the power, that not necessarily, I was spraying a little bit.
Okay, so let's talk about moving forward then. You hit a lot of volleys today, thinking about slices, touch shots. Was the feel there for you on the racket?
Yeah, it was good and crisp with the volleys, but you know, trying to be a little bit more delicate with the volleys and the hands, I found it was a little bit more difficult. There was a little less leeway with that type of shot. So yeah, I would suggest it's not as easy to use for your hands in this one.
Okay, so Kenzo normally strings at 55 pounds with full poly. This is definitely strung closer to 52, obviously with a softer hybrid setup. So you're going to have that access to power, but maybe not the control and spin comparing the two setups. So with that in mind, what kind of player would you think it would suit? A, with a full poly, and B, how it is at the moment?
I think this would suit some sort of baseline player, a baseline player who can hit the ball hard, hit early, hit through the court. I think this would really suit them because with that power, once you get that control, you can really push someone back in the court.
And then let's talk about defending. You know, when you're pushed wide or things like that, does that kind of forgiving feel really translate through on this racket?
Yeah, I'd say so. When you're pushed wide, that extra bit of pace that this generates can help you hit a bit deeper when you're trying to recover. So it gives you a bit more leeway when you're fully on the stretch.
Okay, and then with it kind of strung up in a full poly at your current tension, what kind of player would that translate to? A similar sort of player, or?
Yeah, I think that would translate to a similar player. Yeah, baseline kind of not necessarily coming forward, but you know, what we call a counter puncher kind of player who can just rally from the back and you know generate a lot of pace and spin.
Okay, one thing we haven't touched on is serves. Did that free power translate to kind of more free points on serve? How was that?
Yeah, with the serve, I found it a little bit difficult to control in terms of racket head speed. Once it was up there and I kind of let go, I felt that easy power on the serve. So I think if I were used to this, or once you get more in tune with this racket, I think serves-wise, power-wise, it'll be a little bit easier to generate.
And then slice serve, kick serve, how was the spin production on those?
Yeah, on those, yeah, you could generate quite a lot of whip on these. The same with the topspin serves. You can really brush up and add a bit of pace onto those like second serves and different variations.
And so what do you think about the cosmetics of the racket?
I think it's a little bit old school, a little bit retro. It's got like a kind of a nice blue gradient on it. If I were to have this personally, I'd probably want a bit more colour from it, a bit more variation. But
Okay, perfect.
It doesn't look bad.
So over to Hayden. Tell the viewers a little bit about your playing background.
So I'm Hayden. I started off playing tennis at a very young age. I've probably been playing for about 11 years. I'm now 14. I usually play with the Yonex V-Core 98. So this is a slightly bigger head size than I'm used to because this is a 100 square inch head size, whereas I usually play with the 98. So noticeably from that, it was a lot more power coming from this racket. Probably suits a lot of baseline players, and I felt like it was a lot easier to put away shots from the baseline. Yeah.
So ground switch, what about kind of creating spin? How did that feel for you?
I think because the head size is a lot bigger, you have a lot more time for the ball to actually travel on the racket. So the amount of spin that I could create was like a lot more.
Okay, moving forward, how did you find volleys, touch shots?
I felt touch and feel, surprisingly, it was actually quite good because I think the way that you have the strings with being a lot softer, you can do all the touchy-feely shots, and then with the racket being a lot more powerful, you could go for those deeper, more put-away volleys.
And then how was it on serve? Were you able to generate lots of easy power, like the flat serve down the tee?
Yeah, flat serve down the tee, my favourite serve. Yeah, I've a lot of power. Kick serve going well, obviously, because of the amount of spin that I could generate. Yeah, all in all, serves really nice.
But what kind of player would it suit then? You're talking about put away ability, free power. What kind of player does this suit?
Definitely an aggressive baseliner, or maybe a serve and volleyer, making sure they got those big serves and then coming in and putting the volley away, or someone who's just ready to just whack the ball from the baseline, really.
So what do you think about the cosmetics of this racket?
I think that the matte finish that they've given on most Wilson rackets is really nice. They've got the big Wilson writing on the side and this like ultra writing on the side. I think it's like a nice touch, and this colour is almost sparkly, but the way that they've also given the matte finish the whole way around is just, it's a really nice looking racket.
So guys, some really good feedback from the reviewers today. They really like the kind of easy pick up and playability of the frame, okay? I think this does suit that kind of intermediate club level player, especially with this Luxlon Vibe string, which is a very soft feeling string. It's actually a great string for those wanting the kind of control of a polyester, but with that softer feel that a multi-filament gives you. It really does have that hybrid feel in terms of the string setup, hopefully with that added durability. So the play testers were talking about easy free power, had that nice put away ability, good free power on the serve as well was really prevalent. So your flat serves down the tee came off really well with the racket. And it's obviously a nice and forgiving when you're kind of off center, maybe running for a defending shot, that extra free power that this racket gives is really, really useful. So that came through a lot in terms of the reviewers' feedback. Maybe if you're more of an advanced player, to harness the power you string with a full poly that's tighter, say around 55, which is more kind of a stiffer polyester. So from Wilson's perspective, your Luxlon Alu powers. Have to say the cosmetics is great on this racket. It really does look good. They've gone for that similar kind of look that the Clash has, that matte kind of tone, also with the glossy features. So it gives a big thumbs up from me in terms of the cosmetics. Overall, really good job from Wilson here in terms of that powerful frame and that 300 gram weight. Similar to kind of your pure drives, etc., but better for people's arms. It's a softer feeling racket for those maybe struggling with a little bit of tennis elbow, maybe want a bit more power and control than a Clash.